Yeah, a lot of people do that, and that's fine. And hopefully, when they're making goals, they're putting those goals in different categories. One thing I try to do is say, okay, this year I have Colin Thompson goals. I have goals for me, what I want to accomplish. I have goals that I want to accomplish with my wife. I have goals I want to accomplish with my kids. So breaking things down in different categories allows you to have clear focus, because if you have clear focus and understanding on what these goals are, you're better able to reach them. So for breaking things down into what I call the pillars of life, it really helps identify for each pillar, each thing that's important to you, what is that goal for long term, and more importantly, what is that goal for now?
Exactly. Now,
Priests began doing it. They began sharing it with other clergy. They began sharing it with lay people. And then in 1984, about 10 years later, the Contemplative Outreach Organization was created, which is really the main centering prayer organization. So if you go to contemplativeoutreach.org, on the internet, you'll see a huge website with a ton of resources on centering prayer and groups that practice internationally as well as in the United States. So centering prayer has been around for 50 years, and it's
made countless opportunities happen. He created a successful real estate career beginning in the immediate aftermath of recession of 2009. So without further ado, here's Mr. Joseph Rocky.
Yes, thank you for having me. Yeah, so it was not an awesome time when we entered into this real estate game. Prior to that, I was a financial advisor.
Everywhere where Paul stepped foot, because, we don't know everywhere where he went. And then there's like places between towns that he went. And, I'm not going to travel across the whole country. But what I can do, I realize, is I can go to the actual towns where he went as listed in the book of Acts. So that made sense, right? I wouldn't go to everywhere Paul went, but I would go, and I could go to the towns where he went. And so I mapped these out, and I got some other books.
So, go ahead. So why do value-added incentives beat discounting prices every time?
Well, if you're once you're in business, you realize sometimes one of the things you want to do to compete is discount the price. And as you start discounting, you think, well, maybe my unique selling proposition, my unique is going to be, I'm going to be the cheapest than everybody else. So everybody will pick me because I'm the most affordable. Well, it doesn't. Sooner or later, somebody's going to come along and say, well, I'll be cheaper than you. And now you're at a race to the bottom. And you're both discounting. And every time you discount, you can literally let's talk about how bad that can be for your business. Let's suppose your profit margin is 20% after you pay your staff, your employees, your overhead, your rent.
To tech, and then ended up working in the startup world, and had been wanting to solve something in the personal finance space, similar to you, Jesus, having this passion to help people when it comes to money and finances. And that's where I reconnected with my old friend from college, Andrew Holliday, who went the investment banking and finance route in New York, and we reconnected and started Ostrich as a way to help people build that secure financial foundation.
That sounds great. So, advice anyone can receive.
The most important thing about advice that anyone can receive, I would say to remember that everything is a relationship. And so the challenging part in understanding that is we think relationships are only husband and wife, but you have a relationship to your in-laws, you have a relationship to your parents, your relationship to your kids, you also have relationships in business. So the most important thing is to remember I'm approaching life as a relationship-driven journey. And right now, where I am in life may not be where I am 10 years from now or 30 years from now in my relationship journey. So I have to keep my mind.
Basically, what does living on a hamster wheel actually mean? And when it comes to one's daily life?
Well, it could mean, there's lots of, we could have an whole episode just on the hamster wheel of what happens with us right from our earliest recollections of our origins. We are taught patterns of behavior. It happens from our family, it happens from friends, it happens from school, and then we graduate into adulthood and we learn patterns from school, whether it's college or university, or we go right out into the workforce. And we literally, sadly, we stop mentally climbing. Our brain is a giant computer. It does not know the difference between the truth and a lie. It counts on us to feed it information. And we stop feeding ourselves information. General majority of the population of the world jumps on a hamster wheel.
In different aspects.
Excellent.
So tell me your backstory.
So, Jesus, I'm actually originally a Christian from Iran. I'm an immigrant to the West, to Canada. Back at the time of the Iranian Revolution, the Islamic Revolution, my late father, God rest his soul, he saw the writing on the wall. He saw that, being in a theocratic state, majority Muslim against kind of non-Muslims, wasn't going to be the greatest thing for his family. So packed up the family and brought us to the West. And every day I'm grateful for my dad for bringing us here to the West. My dad was also an entrepreneur. He was a man who uplifted people. He gave to people. He was all about making a difference in people's lives.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Rogue Finances and Life, where we are life and financially sound. For today's episode, I have with me my guest, Mrs. Glenda Gonzales, which is the host of Life Talk Question and Answers. And I also have a guest, Mrs. Mardi Adams, which Mardi Adams is a coach and mediator with over 3 decades of experience in working with women in Canada and the U.S. She has helped hundreds of women successfully navigate the divorce process to reduce the emotional and financial costs. Mardi is the founder of Positive Communication Systems, LLC. So today with Mardi, we're going to be talking about divorce and different aspects of divorce, and also how divorce can influence or change somebody's finances. So without any further ado, here's Ms. Mardi Adams.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be on the show with both of you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Now, all right. So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and how do you got everything started?
Sure. Well, there's a really long version. I'm not going to give you that version. I'm going to give you the short version. I started out as a school teacher, believe it or not, and got into special education and found myself in a lot of situations where I was kind of in the middle between the parents and the teachers, trying to navigate how to set up individual education plans, get kids who were struggling in school the services that they needed. At the same time as that was going on, I was taking a family and divorce mediation training, got really excited about mediation and the behavior consulting. And so I kept working in the school district. This was up in Canada, and also kind of had my own side thing going with the mediation. Got married, was married for 5 years. 3 of them were really great, spectacular years. 2 of them, not so great. Ended up going through a divorce. We did not have any children. So that was, I guess, a blessing, if there is a blessing in divorce, right? Didn't have the kids and any children of my own. So went through that. But it was really tough. And, we both had good careers. The financial side wasn't such an impact for us. But boy, I was amazed at the emotional side, because I'm the one who filed for the divorce. And I thought, I don't have to worry about this. I decided this is my... And it was tough, even months after. And, there's still days when I think back and think, what should I have done? What could I have done? So it's kind of interesting how we hang on to those thoughts. We're long through that relationship, and it was absolutely the right decision. So fast forward, got married again. Moved down here to the United States. So I'm now in Texas. Started working in mediation and decided I really enjoyed coaching because I found I was doing a lot of that in my mediation practice. So became a coach, certified ICF and BCC coach, executive and leadership. And then I found out, surprisingly enough, half the people that were coming to me for executive coaching were also going through personal issues, divorce, separation, death of a spouse or partner, things like that, like life transitions. So that got me excited about divorce coaching, found out about that. So I am a divorce transition coach. I like that idea because it talks about instead of divorce as an end, it's just a pivot. It's just a change. It's just a transition. Life goes on. And so I've been doing that, doing the divorce coaching pretty much exclusively since 2018. So that's the long and the short of it. Well, I guess that's kind of long too, isn't it? I kind of went on a bit there. I work exclusively with women now. I don't work with men during the divorce, and that's not because they don't need support. I just find that for me, I have a better grasp of what women are dealing with in divorce, and so I focus my practice on working with them.
Awesome. So I have a question, Mardi. What are the 3 things most women overlook when planning to separate or divorce?
Glenda, I think there's a big long list. As a matter of fact, I've got a long list of them.
I can imagine.
I think one of the biggest ones that most women don't omit to prepare for is, once you make the statement, I want a divorce or I want to separate, you lose control of the process if you haven't thought your way through it. Because the other person reacts, the partner reacts, and then you react to that, and then you're just caught up in constantly reacting to what the other person is doing. And I think that's where a lot of the conflict gets started. Like it's right in that initial time when you talk to your partner and say, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. Because a lot of times people say, I was blindsided. I had no idea there was a problem in the relationship, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how many times you've told him or her there's a problem. They're blindsided by this, right? So I think you really need to prepare that conversation. You need to prepare for how they're going to respond. And you need to have a way to explain this to them that doesn't make it look like you're blaming them or accusing them. Just being able to give those I messages like, I need to do this for my well-being. I think that's number 1, is having that plan in place. Number 2 is the one that I think people honestly don't think about is, what do you do for financial stuff if the partner says, fine, I'm the primary on every one of our credit cards and you are just a user. You're not even a co-signer on it. So guess what? You're off every one of my cards. You have access to no credit. You don't have access to the joint bank account or the bank account that you're just a signature on, and basically, I'm not paying the mortgage. I'm not paying the utility bills. If you are, in my case, a single mom or a mom at that time who maybe is not working, is at home looking after the kids, which is a full-time job, by the way, but you're not earning an income that way, that can really put you in a financial mess, like right from day one. And you start getting that bad debt reputation from that initial decision. So I think that's number 2. And number 3, I've already alluded to, is just be prepared for that emotional roller coaster you are going to go on, because you're going to start questioning yourself. Is this really what I want to do? Should I have done this? Should we have tried therapy? Or should we try therapy again, depending on what the situation is? And divorce is, I don't care how comfortable you are with getting the divorce, there's going to be emotional peaks and valleys. How are you going to deal with the kids if they're upset that mom or dad isn't in the house anymore? Like, I think those are the 3 big ones. So the preparing the conversation, how are you going to manage the finances? And then how are you going to deal with the emotional stuff?
Yeah, I could see that because I am divorced. I'm married to Jesus now, but I was divorced, and I don't think I thought it through. And it's like you said, that initial, and it's when you start seeing the other person ugly side, and they become, because they're hurt.
Yeah.
They're hurt, and you don't think about that, and then you're the one that initiated, like you said, but you started feeling emotionally, and you're like, why am I feeling like this? Like I'm losing something.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a sense of loss, even though you wanted that. It's still, and then the kids,
Yeah.
and financially, yeah, it was hard.
And I
Mhm.
think, Glenda, that sense of loss is really when you get married, nobody says, I'm prepared for divorce. We
Mhm.
all assume we're going to be with that person forever and ever till death do us part. We
Yeah.
have this grandiose image of the perfect relationship,
Yeah.
like, the Facebook relationship where all the kids are always wearing matching outfits and everybody's
Yeah.
everybody's happy and there's never any sadness or sorrow or problems. And then all of a sudden this happens. And so not only are we losing our partner, but we're losing that sense of that dream, that it's
Mhm.
almost like our whole future just crumbles. And that goes for men too. It's just like, it's gone. So it can feel like there's a big hole. Yeah.
Mhm.
I understand that. So now, when it comes to divorce, right? When people come to you, that means the marriage. There's no repair to the marriage. They already know that that's what they want, or have it been to where somebody comes to you and they think about divorce, but there might be a way that they can salvage their marriage and they don't end up in divorce.
That, what, thank you for that question, Jesus. That is the first thing that I work with my clients on. Are you really sure this is what you want to do? And that might take us 4, 5, 6 sessions to work that out. And I have had people who have been in, now I should say this, it depends where they come to me. Like sometimes people come to me, they've already got an attorney, they've already filed, they've been in the divorce process for a couple of years, believe it or not. Or I get some people who come to me who are just thinking about it and haven't even maybe talked to the other partner. So it kind of depends where they come in. But I always ask people, are you sure? Because it's never too late to say, I would like to try to reconcile this relationship. And you can. I mean, I have had people in a mediation who were doing that instead of going to court, like going through a mediated settlement, who were getting ready to actually sign the final mediation agreement in the room with their 2 attorneys and myself. And, sometimes there was other people in the room. And I had one where I'll never forget this. The guy looked up at the husband looked up at, or the soon to be ex, like seconds away from signing to be ex, looked up and said, I want to give this one more try. Would you be willing to just give it one more try? We'll keep this agreement. We'll give it to the attorneys. They can hang on to it. But will you just give me one more try before we sign it? And they did. They did.
Wow.
No, I don't know what happened because I never saw that. But yeah, I mean, there's never a too late. But what I try to do, getting back to Jesus, to your original question, is I try to make sure that people don't spend $20, $30, $50, $100,000 in legal fees and then decide they want to try to get it back together again. I want them to do that before they invest all that time and money and stress on the legal stuff, because that doesn't make sense for anybody to go through that.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah. It's messy.
It
could
is.
get messy. Yeah. So I have a question, Marty. What is a silver gray divorce?
Yes, that is something that's relatively new, like in the last probably 10 years. So sometimes they're called a silver divorce, a gray divorce. I've even heard them called a diamond cutter divorce. And what it really is it's people that have been married for a long period of time who are going through divorce. So these are people that may be in their 60s or 70s.
Oh, wow.
retirement. I'm going to call them retirement,
Yeah.
silver hair like me.
Okay.
Kind of age where maybe they've been married for 30, 40, 50 years. Maybe they've got adult children, maybe they're grandparents already, and they have decided to get a divorce. That is increasingly common, and almost all of those divorces are filed by women. So that's the kind of interesting thing about that group.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah.
Because you will think that after so many years, I mean, you put up with the person, and you're finally, I guess at a stage that, that you're retired.
Mm-hmm.
So, wow, that is interesting.
And, I think part of it is, and I'm just speculating, from what I've heard from my clients who talk about this, is they've been in the relationship, they've kind of put all their needs and all their wants and all their goals on the back burner to raise their children. And it's a bit of a generational thing. There was a time when people just didn't divorce. So, they've stayed in that relationship. They've worked hard to make it work. Maybe they have had their own professional careers, and now they have this dream of what their retirement looks like. And their spouse goes, no, I don't want to travel. I want to, I just want to sit at home on the couch. I'm just making stuff, right?
Yeah.
But so now all of a sudden the retirement vision is very different. And, people just like, well, why can't, I've got 20 years maybe left where I'm going to be able to do this kind of stuff. So I want to be able to go and do it. And so they get a divorce. Lots of times there's not a lot of debt. They're pretty solvent financially. Typically the house is paid off or almost paid off. There's not typically a lot of credit card debt. So the divorce is actually financially easier, but it's emotionally harder because a lot of times the adult children don't want it because they're like, no, you're old, you need to stay together and look after each other in your senior years. So sometimes the family gets really involved in those, but they're kind of an interesting group of people to work with.
I can imagine, because I can imagine the children being, hesitant, for the mom, typically the woman, right, to make that kind of decision, because they think, okay, mom, I feel like dad is a little stronger. Are you gonna, you're gonna stay alone, and the grandkids and all that, So I think it's like you said, I see where it's harder on the children than on the adults themselves.
Yeah. And I think sometimes people think, oh, they're adult kids, they'll be fine, but it's not.
No, it never works out. I have adult kids, and you think that when they become adult, things change, but they don't change much.
It's just they're the same kids they've always been.
The love for you and the caring is still there, and my mom and my dad, and even though they're adults, divorce is bad no matter, I think, what age,
It is. It's hard for them.
Devastating emotionally, I think. More financially, yes, when you're younger, I guess, but I think when you're that age, emotionally, because you don't realize, like I said before, you don't realize that like me, I was younger, but I felt that sense of loss, and I cannot imagine getting divorced at that age.
Right. It's still not, it's not as common as people in their, in their younger years, say 30 to 50 getting divorced, but it's not as uncommon as it used to be. And really the last 10 years, that's really, the numbers have risen quite a bit. So
it has increased. Wow.
Yeah. So now we all know that when it comes to the divorce, a divorce can put a strain on somebody's finances. So what is the impact of divorce on productivity and workplaces effectiveness?
There is a really interesting study out, and I cannot for the life of me recall who did the study. So I am really sorry about that. Normally I have that stuff on the top of my head and it's just not there today. But the people, CEOs, so C-suite professionals that are going through a divorce, drop productivity between 30 and 70% when they are dealing with a traumatic issue outside of the business. So that could be, again, loss of a spouse. It wasn't just specifically about divorce, but death of a spouse, death of a partner, divorce, any of these, these traumatic kind of events, diagnosis of a chronic disease or a life-threatening disease, those kind of things. I personally, the people I work with tend to be upper management. The women I work with tend to be upper management, entrepreneurs, business owners, or fairly advanced in their professional career. And I think between absenteeism because of stress-related issues, illnesses, single parents have to spend more time dealing with, if you have younger kids, if the kids get sick, if you're a husband and wife team, you can hopefully help each other out a little bit. But if you're solely responsible for the kids, you end up taking more days off work. And let's face it, when you're dealing with emotional stuff, you're just not mentally as astute, as sharp. You make mistakes. You forget things. We're only humans, right? So I don't know that there's an exact number, but I kind of that study that said between 30 and 70%. I mean, if you've got a person who's running their own business who's dropped 30% in productivity, that's a significant amount. And that's impacting the lives of everybody that relies on that business as a customer or as an employee. So that's a significant impact for those people.
Wow, that is. Wow. So, Jesus, you have a question?
Well, I was going to talk about, we hinted already on it, on the financial plan. So, and the financial aspects, though, obviously a divorce can really impact somebody's finances.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so my advice is, and I am not a financial wizard or expert or professional. So my advice is always, if you have any well, first of all, I really believe that if there's any kind of conflict, if you have any assets, if you have a lot of debts, if you have retirement savings, if you have nowadays, if you have investments in Bitcoin or whatever cryptocurrency, blockchain stuff you might have, you really need to make sure that you have an attorney involved, because what you don't know about the law and what you're entitled to under the law, and it's different in every state, every country, every legal jurisdiction. What you don't know about the law around the family code is going to hurt you more than what you do know around the law about the family code. So that's what attorneys are there for, to protect your best interest. Now, they're not financial experts either. So I typically encourage my clients, if there's any kind of asset base, or like I say, if there's foreign assets, if there's family-owned businesses, if somebody is a business owner, I really recommend that you work with a certified financial planner or a chartered accountant or a business attorney, or somebody that can give you the specific financial advice that you need. Because the decisions you make in the divorce, it may just be something as simple as, do you want this in a lump sum, or do you want this paid out over the next 5 years? That's going to impact your taxes. That's going to impact how you could potentially invest that money. And there may be times when taking the hit on the taxes and allowing you to get into a really good asset class right now makes perfect sense. But there may be other times when taking it out over time so it doesn't mess with your tax bracket as much makes a whole lot more financial sense for you. So those little considerations, and I just know enough to know to be dangerous and mention them to clients. I don't really know how to solve any of those problems. But it's what you don't know about those kind of things. And, on paper, it may look like, oh, yay, I get the house. But can you afford the house insurance? Can you afford house maintenance? Can you afford, if there's a tax hike, can you afford, there's all these considerations. The house sometimes is a big liability. People think it's a big asset, but it can become a huge liability if you don't have the financial means after the divorce to continue to pay all those bills that come with the house.
Yeah. That's what we do with families. We sit down with them, and they don't realize, not divorce, right? Like yourself, but any family, you typically, and we help them understand about debt, their asset and all of that, and how to deal with all of that. Yeah. So
And that's
go ahead.
the other thing I was going to say, Glenda, that the debt, sometimes the debt that these people that come to, that are going through divorce now, the debt is staggering. Neither one of them is going to be able to pay off the debt in the next X number of years. So maybe nobody should keep the house. Maybe whatever equity you put in the house should go to pay down that debt, and that'll save you thousands of dollars in interest over the next few years. So having somebody like what you and Jose can do for people, to just sit down and say, this is what we, this is the reality of your situation. That is so important. Or even for my clients that are going through divorce, that are getting a settlement or getting alimony or child support or spousal support, what's the best use of that money? Now, obviously, child support goes to the children, so that's kind of a no-brainer to manage your children and raise them and keep them involved.
Exactly.
They love to do. But there are ways that you can be more strategic about how to deal with the assets you get out of a divorce too, and a long-term financial plan before you sign the final paperwork in your divorce helps you make the right decisions, especially.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Jesus? No. So I have another question, but that's why I was checking with you.
Okay, go ahead.
So go ahead, Jesus.
No,
So I have a question. So if anybody wants to, so do you do your sessions in person, or because of COVID, right? We all are using Zoom, or do you use Zoom as well?
I use Zoom mostly, Glenda, because I just find it's more convenient for my clients. We can meet, if they want to meet from their office at work, we can do that. I do have some clients in the Dallas area. I'm in Texas, so I'm not too far from Dallas. So I have some clients who like to meet every other month. We have one of our sessions in person. So I do travel I'm not going to travel to California to meet with the client. But, if it's reasonable, and if people would like to, I personally like the in-person sessions, but you're right. The last 2 years, everybody's gone to Zoom. People are comfortable. I find, like, for me, I do a lot of evening and weekend calls because a lot of my people are work and have children. So evening and weekends are the best times for them. And, like I say, just jumping on a Zoom call is the most convenient.
Yeah, we had found out the same ourselves, even for like financial, giving somebody advice with finances. A lot of times, just get on Zoom, but we still do the one-on-one if they require. That's what they want to do and they feel comfortable. But yeah, to try to sit down with somebody, a lot of times on Zoom, because that way they can stay at home, and if they got things to do, they can always do what they have to do, plus at the same time be on the call.
Yeah, you're right. And I think most people are comfortable with it. Like, it's funny, I was talking to a friend of mine, and her grandma is, I think, 96 or 97. She gets on Zoom and talks to everyone.
Yeah, it's so convenient. I have my grandbabies. I have 2 grandbabies in Florida, and it's so convenient because I see them, I talk to them. I mean, they're 3 and 2, so they don't, almost 4 and 2, but they don't pay a lot of attention, but it's good to see them, we're such a distance. So I think Zoom has helped a lot, especially in coaching. It's across the border now. There's a lot of even courses, through Zoom and online, and that is incredible. So what you do you do, like, the sessions that you do are like, how you determine how many sessions a person will need?
Well, what I do is I don't do a by session. I do like two different packages. One is like a VIP package where it's 8 months. And it's basically my clients have 2 scheduled sessions per month for 45 minutes. And then they have on demand, like literally, if they want to talk to me at 6 o'clock on Friday morning, they can text me, call me, if send me an email and I'll respond. And if they need, if they feel that if we both together feel that we need a Zoom call, we hop on that. So it's really on demand coaching service. And so that's the 8 month. Then I have another one that I do. That's the 2 months, or I'm sorry, 2 times a month for 8 months, with the email, text, and phone call support, but it's a la carte after that. If you want an extra session, then we have an hourly rate for that. But I find that freedom of people knowing, hey, if I'm really stressing out and I just don't know what to do, I can call you. I think that helps them, and they know that it's not like, I hate to say this because I absolutely love attorneys. I think they're so important in the divorce. They do a great job. But every time you call your attorney, it's somewhere between $60 and $120 if they pick up.
Yeah, that's a money. A money sound somewhere. Ching, ching.
Yeah. So that's why I think that people just appreciate that on demand kind of coaching, and I have never had a client abuse that. So I think that people respect that, and they use it appropriately, and I'm happy to help them. My goal is to be of service to my clients, not to
that's great. That's when you seem like everything, especially with what you do, I think it's sometimes very delicate. A lot of people, women especially, we go into this emotional roller coaster, and having that person there that could guide you, not only give you that like moral support, but also legal, hey, this is what you need to do, you can't do this, you can't just take that, or you cannot just show up, or having that, like bringing them back to focus and center. I think that's great.
Thank you. Yeah,
I really like what you do.
Thank you. This is definitely what I want to do for the rest of my life. I really finally at 5, I found exactly what I want to do, and I've been doing it for a few years now. So I do awesome. Really enjoy it. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Now, obviously we know that social media is like a huge thing nowadays. So now, how does social media impact, or what is this? Why would it be such a problem to use social media while you in the process of divorce?
Oh my goodness. If I had $1 for every person who posted something ridiculous on social media. Basically social media right now, I don't know because I follow sometimes I'm with my clients, sometimes I actually appear in court with my clients. I don't ever testify. I'm just there for moral support. But I can't tell you how many times the opposing counsel has copies of people's Facebook postings or Twitter postings, or even what people think they're saying in private groups. Do not go into a private Facebook group and post stuff about your ex, or partying on the weekends, or whatever you're posting. Do not do it, because those private groups are not private. Nobody monitors who's actually a member of those groups, and anybody can be a member of any group if you just answer the questions right. You can create a fake profile. You don't know if your ex is in that room. Never post anything about your divorce, your children, your ex, your home address. Don't put that stuff on there. And for goodness sakes, if you are dating or looking for somebody, or whatever you're doing in the romantic world, don't do that on social media, because it comes back to haunt people. And anything you post that's negative about your ex, I always ask people this is what I tell my clients. Imagine your child is now 20 years old, and they get shown that post. How are you going to explain it to them? Because if you can't explain it to them, how are you going to explain it in a court of law? If you do get called up, if your case goes to court and the judge reads that, what's the judge going to think? So I actually like to tell people do not even go on social media.
Until it's over.
And the other thing they do is they go on social media and try to spy on their ex. I'm like, stop it. Stop it. You don't want to read that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mardi Wanda. This is very, very informational, and I know for sure that our listeners and audience, a lot of them, we don't know who might this help, but we know for sure this will help somebody.
Definitely.
If they want to reach you, there's any way that they can reach you.
Absolutely. And I just, first of all, thank you so much for having me on this call. This was wonderful.
You're
It's
welcome.
such a pleasure to speak with you both. The best way to reach me is through my website, www.divorcecoach4women, and the 4 is the number 4. So it's divorcecoach4women.com. And there is a contact me. I also offer a free 30-minute divorce strategy session. So if you want to just pop on and get some, like if you're stuck or you just want a little bit of a mindset flip around things or take an evaluation of where you are, I'd be happy to do that. And that's not a sales call. It's really just
That's awesome. Yeah, you could tell you're passionate about what you do. And when you're passionate and you're what you're doing is what your purpose to do, you're just happy about helping and serving others.
And I know that you guys are too, because I was listening to some of your podcasts and they are fantastic. Lots of information. So thank you for what you're doing. It's great.
Oh, well,
thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, this is all the time that we have for today. We all hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. We hope that you guys found this very informative, and just until we hear each other for each other next time, we wish you guys a blessed day.
Bye.